Good morning, my family. All right, all right, all right. We are live. Let's see. Hope everyone was able to make it to the new area. What is the Ben Peaches publishing page? Since we shifted over. Let me see. Everybody can say hello to all the people. Say hello to the peoples. Okay. Good morning, Connie. Well, first of all, can you guys hear me? Make sure you guys. I'm here. Hello, Paige. Can you guys hear me? See if you can hear me, baby. I know you can hear me. You're right next to me. You can hear me. Well, it looks like everybody should. All right. Got the sound check. Thank you, Chris. All right. Let me say hello to everyone. Hello, Connie. Good morning, Chris Mendoza. We got Connie is on Facebook and YouTube. Hello, everyone on YouTube. Good morning, Audrey. Good morning, Trisha. Hello, Heather. Good morning. Let's see who else we got. Paige, good morning. Linda, good morning. All right, great. Excellent. Everyone's here. Well, everyone who made it, who found the new page is here. I know we put it up on the MoB. I put it up on the MoB. Dolly put it up on the MoB, but sometimes it takes a while to kind of get the new traction. Facebook decided that it doesn't want third-party apps, I guess. And StreamYard, I guess, is classified as a third-party app in this regards, to be able to stream to groups, which the MoB is a group. So now what we are is Ben Peaches Publishing is a page instead of a group. I think it has to do, Chris was explaining it to me, but it has to do with the AI thing. So they're trying to put AI into the groups. Is it a bit tricky to get to the actual event? Because we want to try to make it as seamless as possible. I don't know what numbers next to your name. Where are the numbers? I don't see any numbers. Are there numbers next to their names?
I see no numbers.
We see no numbers, Paige. Yeah. Maybe Facebook is tracking you, Paige. Just you. Watch out. Watch out. I don't know what you're doing online, Paige, but they might be looking out for you. Yeah, I mean, but they don't let anyone, like, when it happened on the 22nd of April, I didn't get any kind of notice or anything. I only got a notice when I tried to set up the event for StreamYard, and then they told me, oh, you can't connect a group to StreamYard through Facebook because, yeah, there are numbers. Okay. I don't see any numbers. Good morning, Warren. Welcome. Not just Paige, you're number 4. Maybe it's the number of the person. Huh? Yeah, maybe the person, the order in which you entered into the page. Everyone seems to have a 3 or 4 next to their names on the Facebook and on the web. Wow, that's interesting. I have no numbers. And Dolly doesn't see anything either, so just keep track of it, you know? But it's interesting that there would be numbers next to your name. That's strange. Let's see. Yeah, welcome, Warren. I think this is Warren's first time here, so I'm glad you guys can make it. We have a few people. Event was at the top of my feed when I clocked in. Excellent. Great. I think that might be because of what you typed it in on the MoB, babe, the event.
I just used the link on the MoB. I'm seeing no numbers.
Yes, just use the link on the MoB and you'll get in. You'll come into the room right away. Okay. FB looks like a diamond and a number next to the name. I'll figure out what it is. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm sure it's something.
Oh, that's the number. It looks so tiny.
It's really small.
I see the diamond. The diamond is for top fan.
Oh, I think it's top fan.
People who've actively engaged with a page or profile. That shows up when they comment or recognize their efforts, but I did not realize this was a number. Some people have numbers, some people don't.
Oh, there's some sort of key.
Very dystopian.
It's very dystopian, very Big Brother. I'm worried now. I'm worried.
It's our Squid Games groups.
Yeah, it's very Squid Games. Yeah, long time reader, but just found the group. I'm glad you found us, Warren. Welcome to the craziness. Yeah, I mean the numbers. I don't know. Listen, guys, we'll figure it out. We'll look into it. You know what's interesting though? They haven't had to give StreamYard's permission.
Because it's no longer StreamYard.
Yeah,
It's Facebook.
Facebook. Yes, so even though I'm on StreamYard, I'm seeing them on StreamYard, and they were on Facebook before, but it's no longer a group.
It's no longer going through StreamYard for us.
Yeah, it's still going through StreamYard.
Okay, I don't know then.
It's just that it's no longer a group; it's a page. So their names come in like without any issues. Okay, we'll find out. Chris and I will look into it, and we'll figure it all out. It's not a big deal, but it's interesting. It's very, like Dolly said, it's very dystopian, very Big Brother. All right, let me go into the shout outs and everything. Okay, so excuse me. Huge shout out to everyone on YouTube. We're at Bin Peaches Publishing. So hello to everyone on YouTube who's watching us from the tube. We're at Bin Peaches Publishing. You can find us there. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the page if you get a chance to be able to do that, because we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. And we need your help to do that because I can't do it alone. And so all of us together can share it to one person. If we all shared it to one person, I think we'd be like at 700 or something like that. So that would be great. So let's try and get that number up there. I know it's a marathon. It's going to take a while. You know, this is a process, but we'll do it little by little. We'll get there. And then, you know, from 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000, we'll get there. It can happen. We can make it happen. The mob will grow. And then we'll just take over the world, the internet, everything, the universe. Yeah. You like how I jumped that, huh? All the way up. Yeah. So please help us grow our YouTube numbers. That would be awesome. All right. So we're at Bin Peaches Publishing and StoryTeller. That's all together on YouTube. We're also on Instagram at Bin Peaches. I recently put up the cover of Immortal, and the cover of Immortal is wow. That cover. I mean, Deranged Doctor Design does some amazing covers, but that cover, I'm just blown away by Immortal's cover. It's. Let me know what you guys think about that cover, because when I first saw it, and I've had that cover for some time now, but when I first saw it, it was a while ago, and I was like, wow, this cover is amazing. But now that, you know, it's actually live and I'm seeing it in different iterations and in different, I'm looking at that cover, I'm just blown away. And I even had to email them and tell them this is one of the best covers. The designer for The Range is Milo, and it's one of the best covers Milo has done. Yeah. Let me put this up. This is our YouTube channel. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think for me personally, and I was comparing Tomb Yards and Butterflies, because there's a little thing about TMB that I'm going to get into a little later. But I was comparing Tomb Yards and Butterflies to the Immortal cover, and it's like night and day. It's so different in terms of the composition, the lighting, the characters, even the text, how it looks. I was just like, wow, you could tell how much this person has grown even as a designer, because it's the same person who's done all the covers. So it's amazing. So yeah, so it's incredible. That cover is just something else. So if you haven't seen the Immortal cover, I don't know how you can miss it by now, because it's all over the place. But if you haven't seen the Immortal cover, go take a look and give it a just give it a look, because it's just spectacular. It's incredible. Yeah, no, yeah. Well, you know, I was thinking about that because I put the Iker, and Paige said the Immortal cover was epic. My favorite, along with Iker the Cleaner. When I saw the last Iker cover, the one, what was it? Not Daywalker? What is it? Nightwalker, right? Daystrider and Nightwalker. Nightwalker, the last one, where he's standing there looking down, because we never see Iker's face, right? But he's just kind of standing there. He's got a gun in his hand. He has his gun in one hand, the cane in the other, and he's just standing in that pose. I was like, oh, this cover is epic. It almost deserves, Iker almost deserves his own like full novel. But I'm not gonna get into that now, because then I'm gonna get side eyes from people about starting other stuff that I should be finishing the things that are out there. But when I saw that cover for Iker, I was like you, Paige. I was really impressed. but not as impressed as I am with Immortal. And there's another cover that I can't reveal for a long time, which I want to kind of say is the other side, the other half of that cover, which is called Mortal. And it's, oh, wow, that one is, I'll put it to you like this. The covers just keep getting better, and I have quite a few of them because I have all the way up to Deadeye, Nemesis. I have up to Nemesis, right? Because the next one, yeah. So I have to Nemesis, which is book 29, and we're only on book 23. So I have the next 6 covers ready, and I have the next, after Nemesis, Chaos Rising, Paper Dragons, Phantom Pain, Dark Flame, and Dark Mage. Those have to be made. So that's going to take a while. So I have quite a few covers. They all keep getting better and better. It's incredible. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so on Instagram, this is where the tangent came from. On Instagram, I put up the cover for Immortal, and we're at Bin Peaches on Instagram, so follow us there, and just grow our community on Instagram. We have, do we have swag on M&S?
For Immortal, yes.
Oh, we have Immortal swag on M&S, so go to M&S, Zazzle, EMANDS, and go get some swag for Immortal. I'm gonna get some swag for Immortal. I have definitely gonna get some Immortal swag because it's just that good. A huge shout out to our new patrons. So Heidi Wolf, Cooper Walls, Christopher Scoggin, and Eve Bartlett, who upgraded, who went up a tier. A huge shout out to all our patrons. So let me put up our Instagram page. This is us on Instagram. Go to this link and you find our Instagram page there. Oh, we'll get to that in a moment, Warren. Hold on. So this is Instagram. So if you haven't found us, please go here and find us on Instagram and follow and share that link, please, and let people follow us. And this is also our Zazzle page. So you can get your, I'm gonna put this up quick. Are these links up in the room, babe?
They're in the file section.
Okay, so you can find all these links in the room, everyone. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so this is our Zazzle, this is our store. So that's our reference link. Please use that link so we could kind of keep track. It gives us better analytics. So speaking of, you know what, before we get into that, Chris, let's promote the authors that we have. So that way we can, I want to make sure that we do that and we don't get to the end of the show, to the end of the episode, and we haven't promoted the authors. So who do we have to promo besides Immortal? We already know Immortal's out, which is fantastic. Patches of logos, the M&S motto. What is the M&S? Oh, the M&S motto. Yeah, I leave all that stuff to the lead designer. All the what's going to be done for swag, I leave that to the designer. I didn't get involved with any of that stuff. So, but you know, if you want to have ideas, PM Dolly Heather, I'm sure she'll be welcome. She'll welcome any ideas you guys can send to her. All right, here we go. Our first author is M.M. Crumley. She writes the Immortal Doc Holiday. She has a 15th book out in the series, Indebted, and it's under LoneGhostPublishing.com. So I'm guessing this is her website. So Immortal Doc Holiday is a great story. It's a long series, 15 books. So she's doing really well. She's keeping it going. I remember I came into the series, I want to say she was at book 11. So she's been writing since then. So that's really good. So go pick up the Immortal Doc Holiday. The name of the 15th book is called Indebted. All right, we also have RP and JP Carter. So this is the next book, A Chance of a Ghost, Magnolia Buff Crime Chronicles. So that's the series. So each book is a standalone series, and I guess they're just adding to it. RC and JP Carter have a special place in my author heart because when I started out with Tomb Yards and Butterflies, they, out of the goodness of the heart and their own generosity, they promoted Tomb Yards and Butterflies basically for free. They were just going, oh, we'll put it up. We'll get the word out. When no one knew who I was, and not that everyone knows who I am now, but when no one knew who I was, they went out of their way to make sure that Tomb Yards and Butterflies had a home, and they promoted it, and they would talk it up, and not only on Facebook, but on Twitter, and where and on their own webpage they had a author section. So they hold a special place for me. So RC and JP Carter have a new book out, A Chance of a Ghost. Please go get them. They are indie authors, so go get their book, please. They're on Amazon. The link is on the bottom there, okay? Who else is up here? Let's see. Oh, AD. The final book in the Witch Queen series is on exclusive pre-order. Oh, she has her own store. So she has a shop at adstarling.com. And the product is Witch Queen, the ebook. That's awesome that AD has her own store. So please go to her store, go to her webpage, and pre-order this book, please. You know, we're going to support our indie authors, you know. So she says all her books are out of KU, so she's going wide. In order for her to have her own store and have her books, she's going wide. Let me see. This is what she says. All my books are out of KU, so go to shop at adstarling.com. I'm going to check up on her in a month or two and see how her books are doing, how her sales are doing. And tell her I said hello, Chris, and that I wish her many, many, many sales on this venture going wide. You know, we're dipping our toe into it, so we're kind of doing the same thing. And yes, I agree. Rob and Joan are fantastic and awesome people. So all these links are going to be up in the mob later on. I mean, after the show. So what we always do is we support our indie authors. We need a shirt, babe. Well, we support indie authors. I'm gonna get that shirt, maybe with the M&S logo, you know, or peaches. Peaches. We support indie authors and pastrami, something like that. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. Tell MM I said hello, and I wish her many sales on the new book on Indebted, and that I hope Immortal Doc Holiday just goes on and on and on and on. It's a great idea and a great concept. So, and she's doing really well with it. So that's fantastic. Okay, let's move on. Some of the updates. We have reviews for Immortal. So if you haven't left a review for Immortal, please do, because you know the reviews help and they kind of just give us social proof for the books. And let's discuss before we get into other things. Oh yeah, I'm gonna discuss this and then we'll get into the kind of the meat of the show. Reviews for Blur. If you haven't left a review for Blur, please do. It's a little harder for Blur. I'm gonna give you the comparison. Immortal has as many reviews as Blur, and Immortal came out. When did Immortal drop? The 29th, the 28th, and it has just as many reviews as Blur. So because Blur is wide, I don't know. I guess it's the visibility is different. And Immortal's in KU, and so Amazon pushes those books really hard. So Immortal has a lot more reviews. Although there's this great review that tickles me in Immortal. You got to read it. It's the only 3-star. When you get a chance, read it. It's really funny about what he wants Peaches to do on page 1. It's like I was like, I'm almost tempted to do that. So there's a 3-star review. I don't usually read the reviews because you know I read the reviews up to a certain point, and then after a while, just because the reviews aren't for me. We've discussed this before. Reviews aren't for the author. Reviews are for other readers to see if this is something they want to get into, right? And if you're a beginning author or a young author, or even the veteran authors, if you're going to read reviews, you have to make sure you have rhino skin, TM. Rhino skin, what I consider rhino skin is that you don't take reviews personally. You can't take it personally because it's not for you. So don't take it personally. And you are not the book. So do not, don't conflate the two. Don't tie up your identity with the book. A lot of authors, when you start out, a lot of authors tie their identity to their books. And you can't do that because then you're going to get your feelings hurt. And as an author, you can't get your feelings hurt. You got to write the book, let people say what they're going to say about it. If there are any glaring errors, you're going to see it because it's going to be repeated. But other than that, if it's going to be to the content of the book, writing, like any other art form, like any other creative endeavor, is subjective. So you're not going to please everyone that reads your book. I have people who hate read me. We have that one. They hate read the books. I'm not going to, I'm like, I can't do anything with that. It's like, okay, you're going to hate read it, fine. But, if you really don't like it that much, don't read it. So I have to hate read these. Okay, fine. So, and that's basically it. Just leave your reviews for Blur. Blur needs it because I think Blur's at 55, and I think Immortal's at 55, and Immortal was just out at the beginning of the week, the 28th. There's only what, 5 days ago, and Blur was when? When was Blur? Last month. Earlier last month or the month previous. Yeah, so Blur takes a little longer because it's wide. So that's just for those of you that are all thinking about going wide, understand that it's going to be like that because it gets dropped in the rankings really quickly, and so your reviews are less, and so you want to. So there's some authors who do this. This is a strategy you may want to consider. Some authors put the book wide for a few weeks, right? What does that author do for a few weeks? And then they put it in KU, and that kind of bumps it up. So that's a strategy, especially for the authors who are starting out or the authors who are really invested in KU, you know? So think about that. And before you go wide, I'll put it to you like this. I've been writing for 10 years. I started out wide, and I always tell this story because it reminds me of, you know, how we go into this writing with a certain expectation. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to put it up, and it's going to sell millions immediately. No. My first year, I sold $56.81. My first year, January to December, my first book. And it was only one book. So there were a lot of things that were not right there in terms of my expectations. And then I decided, I discovered, because KU came out shortly after I wrote Spiritual Warriors. And I said, oh, I got to get into this KU thing, see what that is. So I started way before there was a Kindle, before there was KU, for all of that stuff, all right? I'm one of the old ones, yes. So you have to have realistic expectations when you come into writing. And I was even reading an article today about how a lot of authors don't have realistic expectations when they get into writing. And I was reading another article post about how so many authors are thinking about cashing it in or kind of like checking out because they're getting burned out. And I'm like, why? How are they getting burned out? It's like they're writing. Well, this person in particular was saying they're writing 16. They're at the writing 16 to 18 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. And I'm like, even I don't do 16, 17 hours, 7 days a week. That's a lot. I know authors who put out way more books than I do, and they don't write 16 hours a day. So there's an imbalance there. Also, you have to kind of balance it because you will burn out and your brain will get all mushy. I know because I've done 15,000 word days, and after a while, I'm a little punchy after a day like that. So you can't do that all the time, you know. Are you waiting for the big cash to come in, Chris? I was waiting for the big cash to come in all year. I got $56. Yeah, that was enough for like a nice dinner somewhere. McDonald's, maybe Wendy's. So, you know, but the thing about writing, and I guess this applies really to most creative endeavors, you have to be consistent and you have to be persistent. Those two are really important. And if you're gonna come into this thinking it's a get rich quick scheme, it's not if you're gonna do it in a way that you will have a lasting legacy, right? And if you don't burn bridges, and if you help other authors. Because when I was starting, there were a lot of authors who were doing these kind of interesting, I don't want to call them scams, but they were doing interesting strategies that weren't exactly on the up and up, okay? So, you know, it depends on if you want longevity or you want to be a quick flash in the pan and then disappear. I prefer to take the route of I want to be here for a while and I want to help other authors and grow. We all grow together and we can be here for a long time. And then at some point, even if I stop, maybe one of my tribe will continue the stories. You know, you never know. Things like that happen. Look at Rihanna and Terry Pratchett. She doesn't write, but she handles his estate, right? So it's things like that. But I have to write. I was writing. Dolly can tell you, right? I was writing. She met me writing. I was writing when she met me. So at the price of fast food these days, it's true. Right, Chris. We create because we have to. If we can't make money at it, if we can make money at it, great. We will create. This is the indicator. This is how I knew. This is the indicator if this is something that you're meant to do, right? if you would do this whether you weren't getting paid, would you still do this? Right? Because if it's all about the money for you, you're not going to last very long. It just isn't going to happen. I'm sorry. I always think about an interview with Picasso, who before he became the known Picasso, he was still doing his work. He was still doing portraits and paintings and drawings and sketches and all. Before anyone knew who he was, that's what he was doing. It just took a while for the world to catch up to recognize his talent. And then he started Cubism. He did his own thing. That's when he exploded. But he didn't just start with Cubism. He was exploring and exercising his skill and his talent for quite a while before the world came to know who Picasso was. And we all have that. We all have that capacity to be a Picasso. I mean, you got to be really willing to pay the price for it, especially with something like Picasso. But it's there. You just have to kind of seek it. You know, you can all be a Picasso. You just got to, work hard at it. It doesn't happen. When I read my early writing, like I just did Blur, and I think about Blur, and I think about what I'm writing now and what I wrote back then. There's a huge gap. It's like a chasm between the two writing styles because the concepts in Blur, although they're kind of timeless, but they were dated in the book, in the story, but it was the execution needed polishing. But I couldn't get to Monty and Strong without writing Blur. I couldn't get to Monty and Strong without writing Sepia. I couldn't get to Monty and Strong without writing The Spiritual Warriors. It's just kind of like this, and even now with Monty and Strong, I'm writing the stories now, but I look back to like Tomb Yards and Butterflies. I couldn't get to the stories where I'm at now without writing those earlier stories to help me kind of grow and explore and kind of expand and try these things out and try these concepts. Is this going to work? Is that going to work? Things like that. So all of that it's a progression, It takes time, and you have to be willing to be open, to make mistakes, to learn. The learning part is the hardest part, because if you're impatient, it's not going to happen. You have to be willing to learn. Chris says, I still have several landscape paintings in the garage unsold, but dang, back then I was giving them to friends to open up because that's, you create. I always say, this is my opinion, we're all creatives in some way. So maybe some people do it in art, some people do it in writing, some people do it in sculpting, some people do it in how they arrange their home, some people do it in how they arrange paintings on the wall. We all have some kind of creative bent. It just depends on how you want to explore and how you want to express it. But we're all creative. Some people in the way they dress, very creative. One of the Valkyries has incredible fashion sense. And so, but she's also artistically inclined too. So it kind of translates into the way she dresses. And so that creativity always tries to find some kind of expression in all of us in some way. It's just a matter of, being open to different types of creative expression. Housewives are creators. I mean, to manage a home takes a lot of creativity. To manage the people in the home takes even more creativity, to adapt and coordinate things and look at schedules and plan the schedules. And that takes creativity. Right? Hello, Tatiana. Welcome. So the creative bent, the creative desires in all of us, you just have to be able to be willing to let it out. Yeah. So that's the key. All right, let me continue. What else was I gonna say? So many things. So Immortal. Can we talk about Immortal now? Has everyone read it? I mean, today's the 3rd and it came out the 28th. Have you all read Immortal? Can we talk about it? Do you have questions about Immortal you want to share? Comments you want to say? AD, welcome. Hey, AD, I want you to speak to my wife about you going wide, because she's looking into that for some of the books, So I think you two should talk and kind of see what strategy you're using, AD, to kind of, because she's going to look for pointers and, things like that. And I'd like to see how it goes for you. I really hope that wide works out for you, because I think you can reach a much wider market by going wide. So I'm really curious to see how this is going for you and what prompted you to go wide, because that's also a good question. Like, why did you want to go wide? So I have a conversation with my wife, Dolly. Just send her a PM, and she's here. She's in the group, and yeah. Oh, the dedication to the dreamers was yeah, the dedications. So not every book has a dedication. If you look at the books, you'll see some have dedications, some don't. The dedications kind of come with the books, you know. I don't know, Chris. How does Trisha go about seeing your paintings? You're gonna have to take pictures and put them up in the room or something, you know. Yeah, and Chris also, AD, have a conversation with Chris also, because he's considering some stuff. We have a lot of authors in the mob, so we're all watching you with bated breath, as they say. So, but really do have a conversation with them too, and let them know. Yeah. Right. So that's something that we already have a store, right? A shop.
We do.
Yeah, we have a shop. So you need to have a kind of detailed conversation with Dolly, AD, so you can kind of get details and kind of hash out some stuff. And yes, we're all cheering you. We fully support you. We support our indie authors, but we really want to see you do well, Nadine. So yeah. So okay, do you guys have any comments? Because the time, God, I'm looking at the time and I can't believe it's already like we're already gone half an hour. It's already gone like this. Comments, questions, statements about Immortal. Shoot. Because we have the questions to get to. I have the questions to get to later. We have the questions we have a lot of questions. But do you have comments and questions or statements about Immortal? If not, I'm going to talk about Immortal, hopefully without spoiling it for anyone. All right, let me know now if you haven't read Immortal, or if you're in the middle of Immortal, or, you know, because, you know, let me know. Yeah, it was a long opening? You think? Did it feel like a long opening? It's also because people had to find us, had to come to the new location. So yeah. Well, Monty, what humor? Monty doesn't have humor. He's British. He's English. He doesn't have humor. Oh, yeah, that scene. Jeez. Okay, that was the scene I was telling Dolly about. That scene. There was I hope you guys. Okay, I don't want to spoil it for you. So if you haven't read the book, you have to let me know. There's a scene in the book. I'm gonna continue speaking, but like spoilers ahead, right? There's a scene in the book where Callie helps Simon understand what it means to be immortal. Since the book is titled Immortal, I wanted to touch upon the concept of being immortal has been touched on books forever. As long as there's been writing, there's been immortal. I mean, you go to the Bible, it talks about being immortal, living forever. So we're talking way back, right? So the concept of immortality has been around for a long, long time. But I wanted to kind of touch upon immortality, not so much as it's so awesome, it's great, I want to be immortal, I want to live forever, right? But more like it's not all it's cut out to be, because if you're immortal, that means that everyone around you ages and leaves you, and you remain the same age. So it's not exactly this great thing, because you're going to see people get old, the people that you care about, the people that you love, you lose them all. And so Simon hasn't really wrapped his head around this concept, because being immortal for him has saved his bacon more times than not, right? So Callie said, okay, I'm going to kind of show you, I'm going to give you a little snippet, a little window into what it means to be immortal, you know? And what she shows him, so I had to get into this headspace of like, let's go ahead several centuries with Simon, and what happens to Simon as he loses those around him. And it was It was a gut punch. As I wrote it, after I wrote it and I read it, I was like, oh, wow, that's going to be rough. And I tried to write it in a kind of like little vignettes. So I didn't want to get into too much detail, but I also wanted it to be visceral. So it's basically writing it in scenes of things that were happening at the end of each character. So like when Monty gets, it's over for Monty, it's over for Chi. I wasn't gonna write Peaches because I know better, but it would have been it's too emotional to write a Peaches end. But the way they were going out was really awesome because they were fighting, and he was fighting Shadowhounds and Shamblers, and Peaches was hurt, and Simon was hurt, and then Callie explains to him, yeah, my curse is gonna keep you alive, but your Hellhound is not gonna make it because Hellhounds are not immortal. And I was like, wow. And so as I wrote it, and I was like feeling, it hit me in the feels. Put it that way. It hit me in the feels even as I wrote it. It was crazy. Yeah, and so that all came from like, okay, I mean, I grew up with Highlander. Most of us grew up with Highlander because in the end there could be only one. And I'm glad you liked it, Tatiana. I'm glad. But yeah, it was that scene in itself was pivotal in the story because Kali's words at the end. Now I was sharing this with Dolly. I think it's the first time that Simon really, really understands that Kali is not his friend, because she goes, what she says, and again, if you haven't read it, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm gonna share this little part, right? Close your ears. Go like this. Okay. What she says at the end of that whole scene is that make your request now that we have an understanding. And I was like, even I got chills when I wrote that. When I wrote that, I was like, whoa. Because I was like, wow. She just kind of let him know, yeah, I'm not your friend. I cursed you. And emphasis on curse, right? And you think it's a favor, but it's a curse as well. And she emphasized that I have cursed you. You just don't get it yet, but you will. You will. It's like when a parent tells a child, don't do that. And the child's like, I could do this. And you don't know anything. I know everything, right? Because that's how kids are. And the parent's going, I'm telling you, you don't want to go do that because it's going to end up badly for you. And they do it anyway. And then they realize, oh, my mom, my dad, they were right. That's basically what Kali gave him, a window to that. And I'm sorry you almost cried, Tatiana. Don't worry, I almost cried too, and I was writing it. And that's why I didn't write the Peaches part, because there's no way I could write the Peaches part. Even though I kind of gave him the last stand part, which is really fun. That was really good, the last stand. Okay. Let me get into some more updates as we have them, because we kind of have our commercials in the middle of everything else, right? And if you have any questions about Immortal, this is the time to ask them. Because I'm right here, so you can ask me. We have free Spotify codes. Okay, so books from 3 to 16, we have audiobooks 3 to 16. Anyone, you can get one code for any books. If you have a book that you haven't listened to, send Dolly a PM and she will send you the code to listen to the book. So please make your request of Dolly, and she's eager to give you a code. So take her up on it. Okay. We also have a Chirp promo. Chirp is this company that it's an audiobook company, right? And Rule of the Council, which Kevin did a fantastic narration on, is right now $4.99, which is fantastic. Why? It's $4.99? Wow. So it's usually it goes for like $17, so it's $4.99. So they have a promotion on Chirp, so go get it over there. And then the last note I have here, we're gonna discuss later on, because it's what's coming up. The hints have been dropped, and some of them have been picked up on. Chris says, I also really liked how you reminded Simon of everything that happened and how he changed and grew in power. Yeah, he's been going through a lot. He's gone through a lot. So it's interesting to see his evolution, how he's grown. And I try not to for this series, because we're on book 23, and every time I say that, I'm shocked, because book 23. So we're 20 books further than what we thought, and than what I thought would be. But I'm trying not to have the story become stale or boring because first of all, you should never be boring. Never be boring. But 23 books in, yeah, you need to start reminding people of things and make sure that no characters that are in the series have fallen by the wayside or that have gotten lost or, have become irrelevant. That everyone that's in the story, like Angel has to come back. Angel Ramirez has to come back and kind of, get back into the flow of things. And he has there's a little interesting arc with Ramirez. So that's going to be a little fun. And Master Yacht has to come back. Even though Master Yacht has popped up in other places, he's going to come back in the next story in Outcast. So yes. So there are a few characters that are kind of on the sides. They haven't disappeared and they're not irrelevant, but they're going to keep coming in and like doing things and saying things and kind of pushing the story ahead. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening. So sort of Immortal kind of kicked off a few things because of Chi leaving the Dark Council. There's a lot of things that are going to start happening with the Blood Hunters, with Chi, with Simon, with some other things that are happening in the city. There's some other things that are going to be introduced. And now on top of that, they're going to be Outcast. And in the next book, Outcast, you're going to see a lot more of the 10. This is like a sneak. Nobody knows this yet. So when they become outcasts, they can't. So the Dark Council, the Council of Sex, maybe a new name because the Council of Sect. Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, it's something else. So did I. We're gonna change that council title, the Grand Council or something. So when they're outcasts, no one can help them. So the Dark Council can't help them. The Randy Rump, they can't go to any neutral zone. They can't go to Hellfire Club. The NYTF can't help them. So no one helps them. So that only leaves who? That leaves the 10. And the 10 start stepping in to kind of help them. And Dex, of course. But Dex is always kind of hanging out. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm going to have to change that name because it's SECTS. But that's not what it sounds like. Yeah, the Combined Council or the Overreaching Council. Something, I don't know what. And don't forget, Verity is still out there waiting for them. Yeah, the 10, because if they're outcast from everywhere, there's only one group that can step in and help them without any repercussions against them, and that would be the 10, because the 10 is already outcast. No one really wants the 10 anywhere unless the world is about to end, then they'll reach out for the 10. But the 10 is very much like, if everything's going to heck, then call the 10 because they're the ones that can handle it. But if it's not, then we don't really want to be around the 10 because they're just too scary. That's the kind of group they are, right? So when everything's about to be undone, you want the 10. So they're going to step in and start helping the Terrible Trio because no one else will. And they're going to be hunted because they're outcasts. And so the outcast is just a premise to hunt them and attack them without any repercussions from any of the authorities. So there's things. So if you saw in Immortal how things are happening behind the scenes, there are more things happening behind the scenes that they don't realize yet, that other people are realizing, and that are happening because they're growing in power. So it's going to be really dicey in the Outcast. Yeah, in that book, in Outcast. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so if you have questions, let me put this up. Dolly put a link up. This is the link for Rule of the Council for the promo that they have going on. If you haven't heard Rule of the Council, you should, because Kevin narrated that series amazingly. So give it a listen. Go here and you can pick it up. All right, so let's discuss the little hint that was at the back of Immortal before we get to the questions. So at the back of Immortal, there was a little tag that said Fate of the Dark Mages and a book underneath said called Fated Fury, right? Some people found it. I just kind of put it there. I didn't, you know what? I just put it there. I didn't even think that it was going to get picked up on because it's at the back of the book. No one looks at the back of the book.
That was the test.
Yeah, that was the test to see if you guys checked the back of the book. There were a lot of people who said, what is this Faded Fury stuff happening at the back of it? Someone even tried to find it, like looking for it, and I didn't see it. It's like, because it hasn't been written yet. So Faded Fury and Paige really caught on because she was like, is that the not so secret romance? Yeah. So Paige nailed it. And a few other people kind of got it. Yeah, it's so Faded Fury is gonna be. Are we calling it Romantasy? I just don't like that title. I don't know why. Romantasy. Urban paranormal romantasy. Urban paranormal fantasy.
Urban fantasy romance.
Urban fantasy romance. UFR. I like UFR. Urban fan rom.
I think you have to go with sort of the established genre name.
Romantasy. Who established Romantasy? Why can't we establish our own? I say, you know what, Mob? I want you guys to come up with a new name for urban fantasy with romance in it, because it can't just be urban romantasy. That sounds so. Paranormal romance exists, but we're gonna create something new. We're gonna trend set. When I said that to Dolly, she looked at me like, "Yeah, really? You're gonna create a whole new genre all by your lonesome? Whoa!" Yeah, magic love is gonna happen. That sounds like, yeah, I know that's the PNR is the umbrella term. I don't want the umbrella term, Paige. I want something that we create, something that's ours, and that's not romantasy. So we're gonna have to think about that. But yeah, it's gonna have to be on the PNR because it does fall under it.
PNR is not the same as romantasy.
No, I don't know.
I think. Well, we gotta ask.
We're gonna have to look into that. Yeah, is PNR and romantasy the same? Inquiring minds would like to know. Like, are they the same thing?
I think PNR tends to be more heavy on
romance, right? And less on the paranormal.
And I think romantasy is more fantasy.
We're gonna have to look into that.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, what do you guys think? What's the opinion? Is paranormal romance heavy on the romance and light on the paranormal, which is like has paranormal characters, but it focuses more on the romance? And is romantasy heavy on the fantasy and light on the romance? I'd like to know. Yeah, TikTok is the romantasy. I know that. We need to look into. We should have the mob look into that and see, and then see if we can come up with our own term. Then I'll push that, and I'll start pushing it, and I'll create. We can create our own genre. We can push a new genre. Be trendsetters.
Can create the group.
Yes.
Genre, and we'll be #1.
I will call Amazon, and I will speak to the representatives and say, I'm gonna put this book in and whatever we create, urban fantasy romance, and we'll be #1 always because we'll be the only one in the genre. There's only one book in the entire genre. There you go. Yeah, spicy content with paranormal. Yeah, I know, but I'm not doing spicy content with paranormal. I'm doing paranormal with...
PNR has a lot of shifters.
Yeah, PNR has shifters. PNR has a lot of harems, reverse harems is in PNR. There are a lot of... It's like Paige was saying, PNR is an umbrella term for so much. It's so big. It's like saying romance. Romance is just everything, So I don't want to do something that's just everything. I want to do something that's urban fantasy, romance. Like, what does Gail Carriger's book fall under? Steampunk? Gas punk? I think it's some weird punk. It's not that our book is going to be like Gail Carriger's, but her books are very specific to the kind of writing that she does. Right. Romantasy is good old fantasy romance, which has been around for decades. PNR is more vampires, werewolves. Yeah. I can see that. I can see where PNR is leaning more towards vampire, werewolves, and adding romance with those creatures.
Gaslamp fantasy.
Gaslamp. Yeah, historical. That makes sense because she's very steampunky. Yeah. And then romantasy is fantasy with romance, and paranormal is vampire and werewolves in romance. Yeah, because that's where the shifters come in, because I see it like all the time. The bare-chested guy and looking fabulous. And yeah, Maybe I can be on the cover of our books.
Oh my god.
Like that. How about Romagic? How's that? Huh?
There's the Romantices is like Sarah J. Maas
Mm.
and Rebecca Yarros,
Right.
and Suzanne Valenti.
Okay.
The
That's Romanticy.
authors who tend to.
I'm with AD. If it sells books, she says if it sells book, I'll use it. Got that right. I mean, if it it's not even AD. It's not even a matter of if it sells books. It's a matter if it creates visibility for your books. Because if you use Romanticy and people can find your books that wouldn't have found it otherwise, then you need to use it, because that's why those keywords are there, to help people find your books. Readers, prospective readers, find your books. So if Romanticy sells your books or gets you readers, then you should definitely add it as a tag for sure. Urban fantasy romance. I'm gonna use that. Urban fantasy romance. I think urban fantasy romance, but I don't think Amazon has a genre on the urban fantasy romance. I don't think so.
We don't have a Romanticy genre either.
No, Romanticy doesn't exist as a genre yet, but it's going. I think it's gonna come up. I'm sure, because it's all over the place. I just sent you a link, an email from James Blatch.
Yes, I saw.
About what? Romanticy. Yeah. Yes, I am clueless about these type of books. I've read Sarah J. Maas, some of her. I think I read most of her books. I tried to read another one. I couldn't get into it. And then I'm reading Gail Carriger because I like her writing. She writes really well, and the stories work really well. But I guess that would be considered paranormal romance, because she's they're werewolves and they're vampires. And then there's the main character, and she's like a null. So she doesn't have any, she has no soul. So it's different. So she's not affected by any of these things, right? So yeah, we're gonna have to, I think we can kind of influence the algorithm. I will call Amazon and ask them, how can I add, is it possible to add a genre title? Because they just recently kind of changed and modified all the categories at Amazon. And so within that modification, there has to be room there for authors to kind of suggest or add a genre if there's enough demand for that genre. I think we can do that. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I am sure there's a way to do it. We'll figure it out. But I'm going to write the book. So Fated Fury is the book. And if you're on Patreon, did I mention Patreon, people? I did, but I didn't mention Patreon itself. All right. If you're on Patreon, first of all, you get the stories that I write that are exclusive to Patreon. Those are every 3 months. Those are, I guess, quarterly. We'll call them quarterly stories. But also on Patreon, you get chapters for the works in progress. It's kind of, if depending on the tier that you're at, you get those chapters. And so Patreon is the patrons are getting Fated Fury right now. They're getting chapters of Fated Fury, even as we speak. Not right this second, but in this time frame. So they're getting a sneak peek, I guess we want to call it, a preview of Fated Fury before it gets hit by the art and the edits and everything. So it's kind of very raw, but they're getting it. So, Mary Beth saw it. So yeah, how many chapters did they have? One? Two chapters. So they have 2 chapters of Fated Fury. It was very fun to write because it's a different kind of story. It's completely different. There's magic, but you know what Fated Fury reminds me of? Sepia, because of the female protagonist. Yeah, kind of.
I should do a
Sepia crossover.
I should do a second series for Sepia with Sepia and Cade.
No.
Yes.
No. So yeah, Fated Fury reminds me a little bit.
There was a vibe.
There was a vibe.
There was a vibe.
There was a sparks. There were sparks. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go to the questions now. Seconds is CPNK. Wow, there's a lot of questions. All right. You guys are amazing. I want to thank you all for the questions that you provide every show, because these questions, and we're going to answer all of them. So we might run, like Chris said, we might run a little late today. These add an extra dimension to the episode, to each episode. And these are awesome questions. I try not to look at these questions before I see them now. So I can't see the feed because I'm looking at the questions. All right, here we go. I could always open it on this page. Duh, jeez. Anyway, all right. Chris asks, do all the new music tracks have names yet? Yes, they do. All the tracks are named. So I can put the names up later, but they're that's how I know which one is which. They're all named. Yes. They're usually named by characters. So it's called Peaches and Tristan, Michiko. Then there's M&S Theme 1, M&S Theme 2, M&S 2.0, and M&S Dark Theme. But they all have names. Yeah. That's a great question, Chris. Yeah. Are we putting them on Spotify? Yes. So all the themes are going to be up on Spotify. And once they're up on Spotify, I want you guys to stream them constantly. Okay. In the morning when you wake up, it should be your alarm. When you're making breakfast, you should be listening to one of the themes. When you're driving, if you're driving, listen to a theme. When you're having lunch, this should be a lunch theme. At night, when you go to bed, have a theme playing so when you go to sleep. So we're going to be themed out, guys. All right. Great question, Chris. Thank you. Audrey has questions because Audrey has all the questions. Her streak goes unbroken. All right. So first, so Audrey always has these awesome questions. First question to Orlando, to me, is there a specific event period in your life that has informed, inspired your writing? Wow. That's a really good question. We can almost spend a whole show on that one. I want to say my childhood was really, really pivotal in my writing because it was like I grew up playing D&D, so my creativity was running rampant in terms of creating dungeons and playing in dungeons and creating these worlds in my head that we didn't have. I had an Atari 2600, but prior to the Atari 2600, that's how old I am. Prior to the Atari 2600, we had the Brain 1. And that's what we played our games in our heads. We used our imaginations and we made games that way. So I had a really great group of friends growing up that we challenged each other making games in our heads. Or sometimes we'd go out to play and we'd create games on the fly, just outside. And we didn't have any things to play with, but we could create things outside. And so, yeah, we do things like that. It was awesome. So I would say my childhood really, really inspired my writing, for sure. Dolly, do you have a collection? This is the next question. Do you have a collection that you are obsessed with and can't stop collecting?
I would say no.
No.
I don't have.
She doesn't do obsessed things.
Yeah. I used to collect stamps and coins when I was younger, but that was that.
Philately? What is it?
Philately.
Philately?
And numismat.
Mm.
I do have a collection of teas, but I'm not
teas. She loves teas. My God, teas. She's not obsessed with them, but it's close. All right, next question. Orlando, have you ever had a brush with death and did it change you? I've had several brushes with death and each one changed me. Yes. I've made no secret about that. I never thought I'd get to this age. So I've had several brushes with death. With Ezra, yes, me and Ezra have met many times. If you want to know why I can write Ezra the way I write Ezra, is because me and Ezra have had conversations.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I've had brushes with death many times.
Have you had conversations
with Ezra?
Yeah.
With death?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like if I make it through this, I'm never gonna do this again.
Oh, the bargaining.
Yeah, the bargaining. Or this is it. I'm gonna buy it here. This is where I die. Okay, I get it. I mean, I used to be a graffiti artist way back. We're going back many, 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 many years, which meant many brushes with trains in New York City. If you were going to be a graffiti artist when I was growing up, that meant you had to go to the train yards to paint the trains, which meant you had to dodge police, you had to dodge dogs, and you had to dodge trains that sometimes came down tunnels, and you weren't aware. How could you not be aware of a train coming? Because you're busy doing other things, and it's noisy, and sometimes it's noisy no matter what. And a train comes, and you only notice when the lights are shining on the tracks behind you. That's bad. That's if you're so distracted that you only notice a train when the lights are shining on you, you're getting close to dying. So, and then there's also touching that third rail. So you have to be really careful not to touch the third rail, because that would electrocute you. And you would, if you make contact, if you completed that circuit with another rail and the third rail that powered the trains, that was it. Because no one could touch you because you completed the circuit. So to push you only meant that they were joining the circuit. So you had to be kicked or hit with something that was wood or something. Yeah, I lost a few friends on train tracks. So yeah, I had a few. It changed me, yes, each time. I also grew up around dangerous individuals and gangs. So yeah, facing death. I faced guns. I faced knives. I faced chains. Yeah, rough childhood. Yeah, it changed me each time, Audrey. It changed me. It made me grow. It made me appreciate the life that I had. But I also kind of lived with a cynicism that I wasn't going to make it to be very old. And then there were crazy things that I would do. I mean, I had friends who would ride bikes on the edges of roofs, you know? So they would practice. So the way they would practice it, they would go on a sidewalk on the curb, and they would ride their bike on the curb until they got really good at that. And then they would take the bike up to a roof and then do the same thing. It's just that it's not on a curb anymore. You're 6 floors up, and do things like that. And then we have a set of buildings that was across from the building where I live, where there were bridges, right? Joining building to building, but the bridges didn't have any barriers. You could go up there as a kid, and actually a few kids fell off those bridges because there was no protection. It was just a bridge joining a building to another building. And we'd go up there and play on the roof, and every so often a kid would fall off. Yeah, it was pretty, it's why when I put up that post of my childhood compared to my kids' childhood, my childhood, we were just running rampant like wild animals, and our parents didn't know where we were, what we were doing, And now with my kids, if I could put a tracker on them, I would, like on them, so I would know where they were at all times. Yeah. So yes, Audrey, it has happened. I've had many brushes with death. Like I said, me and Ezra, we're close. Okay, next question. Great questions, Audrey. Thank you so much. Next question, Chris Chrisman asks, what is the worst writing advice someone gave you when you were starting out? Oh, the worst advice I got was, you don't really need to learn. You already know how to write. You don't really need to study writing because you've been doing it most of your life. And boy, was that a mistake. It's like, you already know how to write. You don't need to study that. And then I realized, then someone else, an actual writer who was established, said, this is a craft. You got to learn it. You got to study it and study it and study it. And if you think that first book you write is going to be any good, think again. It's not. It's going to suck. You got to learn this is a craft. It takes study. And yes, the 3-act structure has been around forever, but you got to know how to do it. The advice that I got was, you got to learn those rules before you can break them. So learn them and study well and study hard. And they gave me all the hardest books to study. They gave me Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. They gave me the Larry Brooks books to study. I was like, oh my God, come on. So yeah. So yeah, the worst advice was this, right? Kind of, you could do this. You can wing it. It wasn't be a pantser, because be a pantser is different. Be a pantser is kind of like, you don't need to outline. And I outline anyway, but there were times when I didn't outline. The Spiritual Warrior was written without an outline, and it was rough. And I learned to outline after that book, because it just kind of went in all these weird directions. Dolly could tell you, because she had to transcribe it.
Even if you didn't outline, did you make notes?
No, I would just approach each writing day as, okay, let's see where the story takes me today. And that's horrible for me. There are other authors who do that. I'm told that Stephen King writes that way. Writes without no outline. He just writes wherever the story takes him.
How do you know if he didn't miss any threads?
You don't.
You continue or close.
You don't know. That's the thing. You just don't know. You're following the story wherever it goes, but usually what it does, it takes you into dead ends, and then you kind of have to backtrack. to a place where you can continue the story, and then everything that you've backtracked, everything prior to that point, you kind of lose, or you got to have to incorporate it into the story in a different way. And that's hard to do as a beginning writer. It's really hard to do because you don't know what to keep and what to discard, or what's going to serve the story and what's not, because you don't have that experience yet. But also you don't know when you're heading into a dead end, or if you're killing a character and you need that character in 4 chapters, but the character's dead now. So now what do you do?
Revive it.
Yeah, you have to revive him somehow, but you can retcon a character, but you have to make it believable. So it's hard. So all that stuff you learn, but it's those are the knocks. Those are the things that you learn as you're doing it. And then you realize maybe I should study how this stuff is done. And then you do that, you know.
Do you still spend time on that?
Studying? Yeah, I was reading stuff when you were with the young warrior at the appointment today. I'm always trying to read something. I'm always learning something, even if it's something that I might know. I read a different. Now what I do is I read authors who are well established, their takes on certain things, but it's still a different perspective that might help you. And I get the emails all the time from like the Killing Zone. There's a whole bunch of authors that I read, and I read that all the time. There's a great web. It's not a website. It's an email newsletter from authors who are very well established in the respective fields, and they kind of write weekly and monthly, sometimes daily, advice on writing. So Lee Child is part of it. James Scott Bell is part of it. There are a few authors that are really well known that are part of it. I read Chuck Wendig's newsletter, Terrible Minds. It's really good. So there's a few newsletters that I read. Kristen Lamb has a great newsletter. So I'm still constantly trying to learn stuff. September, this woman, September Hawks, she has a great newsletter. There's a few good authors that have really good newsletters on not so much advice, but what is this writing thing about, and how would I do it, or different authors do it this way. So it always kind of gives you some insight, which is good. Okay, next question. And we're almost at the end, but guys, we're going to do the questions. The questions have to get done. Okay, here we go. Another question from Chris. Have you ever done a local outside the neighborhood book signing fair, and would you do it again? No, I've never done a local, or I guess non-local book signing fair. So I can't say I would do it again because I've never done one. Yeah, I've never had the opportunity to do one. I guess the closest would be when I went to 20 Books to 50K. They had a little thing for the authors to present books, and I spoke to people, but I didn't do book signings. But I do book signings for my readers, yeah, all the time. I sign them and I send it to them. They request it. We have signed by the author, right? Yes, I do that all the time. But a book signing fair, I don't know if that would be the best use of my time. I don't think I'm quite that large of an author to be able to say, I'm going to do a book signing and then have all of Manhattan and New York and Queens come and pick up my books and do a book signing in line. It's like if Neil Gaiman does that, yeah, people are going to come from everywhere. Stephen King does something like that, people are going to come from everywhere. Orlando Sanchez does that.
But you can coordinate with Neil Gaiman.
Oh.
You guys can have a table next to each other.
Now you're talking. So when next time Neil does it, let's reach out and then we can hook up with Neil. No, we'll get Neil, James Patterson, Stephen King, and me.
And you can be in between.
And I can be in the middle somewhere there. And then, so they can get Neil at the beginning, they get me, then they get Stephen King. So to get to Stephen King, they got to go through me. How's that? So yeah, I'm not quite that renowned to have book signings like that. So, but if I do at Peaches Con, I would definitely have a book signing just for the sake of saying we have a book signing, and I'll be signing books. I'll sign books, T-shirts, arms, faces. I'll sign. You give me something to sign, I'll sign it within reason. Okay, don't get crazy. Don't get crazy now. All right, Elizabeth is asking. Great question, Chrisman. Chrisman. I can't say I would do it again because I haven't really done it. Elizabeth asks, is there any word/schedule for when audiobook versions for MS Books 17 onward will be available? We're working on it, Elizabeth. It's a matter of scheduling, coordinating, and making sure the finances are right, because audiobooks are not cheap. They're really pricey. And just to give you an idea, all the audiobooks that we have from 1 to 17 to 16, they still haven't paid for themselves. We have a lot of audiobooks. So we kind of have to fit it into the budget at a loss right now, but we know it's necessary and that our readers need it, because a lot of our readers love to listen to the books, and we have a phenomenal narrator. So Dolly's handling that, and she's got to juggle all that, like the cost of it. Can we market them the way we need to so they can, be profitable? There's a lot of factors involved there. So it's not that we don't want to do it, it's just that we have to be able to fit it into all the budgets, All right, let's see. Chris asked one more question. It's awesome. When Dolly is gone, what is your go-to dinner to cook? Emphasis on cook. I'm not ordering in. For the family. Okay, well, I have a few dishes, but I have one dish that is like the go-to dish. It's steak in strips, right? With onions, and it's kind of like a pepper steak sauteed kind of thing. I have a big wok that I make it in. And because I don't make it often, it's in huge demand when I make it. That's the only reason, I think, because they don't. But when I make it, it gets devoured. So I make it with rice and that steak, and I have to get like pounds of steak, and then I have to season it. I season it in the morning, and I let the seasoning, and it's like this amazing seasoning that I can't tell you because it's like a secret, but it's this amazing seasoning. It gets, and by the time
you just put a whole bunch of sauces together.
I mix a lot of different sauces. I don't measure the sauces, so I couldn't tell you the amounts. It's kind of like the way my mom would do things. I kind of eyeball it, like, this, enough of this, enough of this, some of this, some of that. And so, but it always turns out awesome. It always turns out so good. And then even as I'm cooking it, sometimes some of the meat gets scavenged as I'm cooking it because it's so good. And my next project is that I have to get a grill, a special grill for the stove, because we don't have a barbecue grill. I'm not going to barbecue outside. And I'm going to make some skirt steak over the summer and have that. And it's going to be like, it's going to be delicious, because I have a special sauce for that too. I'm going to do that. And that's going to be amazing, because skirt steak is really so good. Now I'm hungry. Just I can
hear my arteries closing up.
No, skirt steak is good steak. It's good beef. It's not fatty. It's really good.
Depends how much you eat.
Okay, just for that, I'm not gonna make you eat any. You're gonna get to watch us eat.
That's never happened.
I can't even say that with a straight face. All right. Thank you so much for the question, guys. You guys are awesome.
Carl has a question.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Let's get to the question. All right. Carl Skull. Hey, Carl, how are you? Welcome. Is there an end game for Monty and Simon, or will the ride continue as long as the interest remains? Well, both. I mean, I could end it almost every book with the asteroid that hits the Earth and everything's gone. But there is definitely an end game. It's moving towards an Avengers type Infinity end game kind of scenario. But I can keep it going indefinitely, because there's just so much in the world, that in the Monty and Strong world, that can keep that story going. And I can always have them do I can have Simon do the Morrigan's Man, where he kind of splits off from Monty, and like they kind of take a break from each other. And Monty goes to the Montague School of Battle Magic and becomes an instructor and kind of has adventures there. And Simon goes off and kind of becomes a hitman for the Morrigan, for Bad Katha, and he becomes a Morrigan's Man with Peaches. And Monty can kind of join him on some of those missions, right? And they can kind of take a hiatus and then come back. Bye, Trisha. Thank you so much for being here, and have a great weekend. So there are options there, but as long as the interest is there, Carl, I'll be writing Monty and Strong, because I love writing Monty and Strong. It's like it's one of my favorite series to write, and it's one of the easiest series for me to write. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I never measure when I do the meat stuff. When I'm seasoning, I don't measure. It's not cup. I don't do any of that stuff. So yeah, I got lost. Chris, I usually get lost when we're talking about writing advice. I get lost in it. I usually get lost in teaching, because I remember how I struggled to do the writing, to start the writing, and what I had to go through and what I had to learn, and the bumps and the bruises that I had to get, you know? And I don't want other writers to have to go through that. Sometimes we have to. There's some bumps and bruises we have to go through. But if there's something that we can avoid because other people went through it, I really hope that we can kind of help people circumvent that, you know? All right, so the book that comes next is in Mountain Strong is going to be Outcast, which is book, oh my God, is that book 24? That's book 24, Outcast. And Fated Fury is coming out at the end of this month, hopefully, if everything goes well, at the end of this month, end of May. And that one is going wide. Fated Fury is going to be wide. So you guys, I'll do what I did with Blur, which is I'll let the mob know, pick it up now. And then, you know, and it'll be at the mob price. And then you guys got to jump on it. Then I'll give you a nice window to do it. And then it goes wide. It goes everywhere. Yeah, I think the teaching moments are important because I know for a fact, I had to do all my learning from books because I didn't have access to other writers in the beginning. I was kind of clueless in so many things, and probably still am. But I didn't have authors to speak to. I didn't have authors as friends when I started. I didn't have anyone to reach out to. Now I have people who reach out to me all the time, and I can answer them, and that's fine, and that's awesome, and that's kind of one of my purpose of things to do as an author is to help other authors. But I didn't have that, and I try to make sure that other authors have access to at least an author. I wouldn't say a successful author, though people consider me a successful author, but I've written books, I've gotten them out there, and I've been able to connect with readers, and hopefully that's really what you need to do and be able to do. And I've been able to help other authors. I mean, some of the authors that I've helped are doing really well, which is fantastic. That's always kind of awesome to hear that they're doing so well, you know? So yeah, I think it's my position that every writer, every author needs to reach back and help the authors behind them, you know, that we're the trampoline for them to keep going forward, you know? All right, Warren, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for taking time out of work to hang out with us and spend some time here in the Kaffeeklatsch. All right, guys, it is time for us to roll, to head out. So thank you so much, you guys. You know, every time we do these shows, it's like incredible. We've had a good group today. You guys are fantastic. And we're in a different place, but everybody pretty much found us. So that's always good to hear that the StreamYard worked. Okay. A number from 1 to 7, so we can go out with a bang, as we say. Let's go. First 10 people, a number from 1 to 7. Go. And thank you all for a great show. All right, they got 1, 7. That's one person, 7. Bye, Tatiana. Have a great weekend. So we're going to put the closing theme song. If you want to hear the theme song, a number, you have to put a number from 1 to 7 so we can pick the theme song. The theme that gets the most picks, the most votes, I guess, that's the one that we're going to play. So far, I'm seeing 2 for 5. Bye, Linda. Have a great weekend. Federica, it's always great to have you here. Thank you for being here. Is it the first 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more people and 5 more numbers. Go. I think it's fun, Carl, for sure. Yeah, that's more 7s. Okay. So what do we have? 7 has like 3. Oh, okay. So it's 7 then. All right. 7 it is. Let's see. I'm going to take my wonderful scary face off. Heather, have a great weekend. Oh, so before we go, wait, I got to do the closing because I don't have my official closer here. All right. So very important. Be kind, be unstoppable, and be uncommon. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Our next Mob TV is the 17th of May, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 17th. So May 17th, so in 2 weeks, we'll be here again doing this awesomeness. Thank you again for being here, guys. I really, really appreciate you. Can't do this without you. Don't forget to tell everyone about the show and have a wonderful weekend. So I'm going to remove my